Today I'm going to replace the factory speakers in my 2003 Honda CRV. These OEM speakers are crap. They are paper cones, they get warped over time, they're very low power, the magnet structure on them are non-existent. They're just all around horrible speakers and they need to be replaced. Hopefully this will save you a little bit of money if you plan on replacing them in your 2002 through 2006 CRV. It's pretty easy to get in here. We're going to go ahead and take the door panels off, at least on this rear side, so you can see how easy it is. And then we're going to use the same mount that is housing the speaker, and we're going to cut the old speaker out and mount our new speaker in. So we'll go ahead and get started. You need minimal tools for this job. You're going to need a small flat blade screwdriver. You're going to need a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, and a pry tool. If you have a plastic pry tool, that'll help to get the door pops off. And then we'll have access to the speaker once we get the door panel off. First thing you want to do is start pulling off the door handle itself. And this can be accessed right here. There is a little inlet here at the top where you just pry. You get your screwdriver in here and just pry. This cover comes off, and once you're in, you'll see that it has exposed 2 Phillips head screws. Just go ahead and take those off. I apologize, I don't have the greatest setup for filming. I'll end up doing this all myself, one-handed, so if I have to put the camera down, just bear with me. There's one screw. There's 2 screws. Since this vehicle is about 20 years old, you can anticipate some of the door fasteners, the pops, will have deteriorated, and or the actual mount on the door is the plastic has rotted or deteriorated to the point where it breaks real easy. So you have to be aware that if you get in here, you may have some breakage that occurs on either the fasteners or the door itself, both of which can be repaired or replaced. Here's the clip for the door handle. You have this fastener that goes around it that has to be pried off. You can do it easily with your hand, as I just did. And then once you do that, then the rod should just pop right out of there. You can set that aside. Now there is a trim piece here that needs to come off. This one's easily pried off with your hands. Now, a series of 2 Phillips head screws here underneath the handle, and then another one on the other side of the handle. We'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and take those out right now. It may require a light. I know that sometimes I can't see up in here. One. Have to get my light repositioned. There we go. don't worry, if you drop them, it should fall right into the door panel, so you should be able to get them easily. Once those screws are removed, the door should be free and clear to be able to pop out of there. So this is where the trim tool comes into play. You're gonna have to get around the edge here and pry slightly until the door pops. Lift out of the door. Hopefully they won't break all on me as I take this out. I'm going to set the camera down for a second so I can finish popping the rest of the doors. Okay, rest of the doors is free. You just lift up so that the top part of the window channel comes out of the door. And set it slightly down. You'll notice that it has a wiring harness that's attached to the window switch. That needs to be popped out of there too. It's got one connector here that needs to be popped free, and then the wiring harness itself. So again, you can get yourself your trim tool and kind of give it a pry. Should come out. And once that one is free, then you should be able to push the tab on the harness. All right, now that's free. You can set that aside. As you can see, the fasteners here are around the perimeter, and one is still in the door, so we'll have to pull that one out. Sometimes that happens, and it looks like most of them are all still intact, so that's good. All right, I'm going to push pause real quick and then set this aside. All right, here is the cheap Honda OEM speaker, and it is just basically pressure clipped into the door, and the mount and the speaker are all one component. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end up trimming the cone and the spider out of here and pull this whole diaphragm out, and then we will repurpose and reuse the actual mount here for the new speakers that I purchased to put in here. So we'll go ahead and get a screwdriver. This should pop right out from the top here. There's a clip that just kind of holds it in. We'll just pop it. It should pop right out. Once you pop this top clip, you should be able to just lift up and the whole thing comes out. You can see the wiring harness there on the back. I can't probably do this with one hand. Let me set this down again. Okay, so there are two clips on the side here that you just depress them like that and then pull back and it should come right off. Now I have an interface that I purchased. You can get them online, eBay, or on Amazon. That is the interface. If you don't want to cut and strip wires, you can buy these speaker interface cables that allow you to just plug right into the stock harness and use that to plug into the aftermarket speakers. Here is the speaker I was telling you about. It is very cheaply made, and it is kind of a horrible thing to have in here. Paper cone, full range speaker, horrible. I'm not going to do a major upgrade today because I don't want to spend a whole lot of money, and you don't have to either. I purchased some 6.5s Boss Speaker's the cheapest I could find online. It was a set of 4 6.5s for about 30 bucks, and I got them on Walmart.com. You can do the same thing. It works perfectly for this application. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the basket out. This is plastic. This is like an ABS plastic, and we're going to trim right around these edges. We're going to cut here with a cutting disc and a Dremel. Cut all the way around, and remove the magnet, diaphragm, cone, everything out of here, and use this plastic piece. We'll reuse it as the mount for the new speakers. I'm going to go ahead and push pause, and then I'll get the Dremel set up and cut this out. So I will be using just a cheap Harbor Freight rotary tool with a cutting disc, and we'll just cut these this back basket off and be able to reuse that. Now you'll want to trim back a little bit further here first before you get to this clip, because we want to save a lot of this mount. Alright, for the most part, it should be able to come out now. Let's see. Nope, it looks like I got a few more spots that I didn't get. Hold on just a second. Okay. Let's pull the cone off. Ta-da! All right. So now this is off. We won't need that anymore. This is the trim ring, and this is what we're going to need to be able to mount it back into the vehicle. And that'll save you some money, because you can buy aftermarket mounts through places like Crutchfield and Crutchfield.com and things like that, but you're going to be paying a little bit of extra money. And if you're doing a 20-year-old car, you don't need to spend the money. You can just go ahead and modify what's already there and then use it. And I highly recommend doing that. All right, so what we're going to do now is finish cleaning up the areas that we trimmed off. I'm going to do that with a Dremel. I need 2 hands to do that. And then you're also going to trim this piece back to the metal, not past it, but right up to it, just so that you can keep the clip and maintain its integrity as a mount when you put it back in the car. I'm going to push pause real quick. I'm going to do that, and then I'll show you. Okay, so I've cleaned it up a little bit more with the Dremel. Again, I told you to make sure that you save as much of that as possible, only trim down to the metal edge of the clip. That'll save us the ability to mount this back in its stock location. So now I'm going to push pause again. I'm going to get the speaker ready, and I'm going to show you how to mount the speaker. Okay, here are the Boss speakers that I purchased on Walmart.com and had them shipped over. Again, cheapest ones I could find on the internet. Again, right around 30 bucks for a set of 4, which is great because this is perfect for the application. They fit perfectly where they need to. And we'll go ahead and get them installed. Funny thing is, maybe it's not funny, how much better the cheapest aftermarket speaker is versus the Honda. You know, the magnet structure, right? The cone material, the surround material. I mean, it's just hands down way better than the OEM product that was originally in the car, which is not saying much because Boss is pretty horrible. But this is great for what we're trying to do. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is, for this guy, this is the way that the ring sits in the car. So it is with this clip facing up. So the speaker terminals should be on the bottom side, down right here, with the tweeter arrow, I guess you could say, facing up, and it should fit just like that in the ring. Now you're going to notice there's nowhere to mount this to, right? So what am I going to do? Well, I'll tell you what I did, and people would disagree with what I do, but that's fine. They can spend more money and do different things, but we're not putting a lot of power to the speakers. They're not high power speakers to begin with, and as far as the application goes, about 3 screws is all that you really need to be able to get this effectively mounted into this bracket and get it back up in the car and have it be functional for a long time. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill some holes through this portion here, right, on the mount. So there'll be a screw hole here that we're going to drill, and then there's going to be one that we drill here, and then there's going to be one that we drill here, and those 3 screws will be holding this into place. Now you can use whatever screws that you want to use that are long enough for this application. I have some leftover drywall screws that seem to grip really well and hold. Once you drill the holes, then you're going to fix the screws into place. Once you do, they're going to be sticking out the back side. Well, they cannot stick out the back side. We need them trimmed off. So once the speaker is secured to the frame, to the mount, then you're going to take the Dremel tool that you just used to trim the plastic, and you're going to trim off the screw heads so that it will sit flush back in the mount. And I'll show you what that looks like after I'm done, but I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes, and then I'll show you what it looks like with the screws in place. Okay, here is the mount with the new screws in place. I've got all 3 attached in the locations that I told you. Now if you notice, the screws are sticking out the back, so we are going to have to trim those at this time. So I'm going to go and take them over to the Dremel. Again, you're just going to cut them flush just on the other side. If you can see here, if I can point it out, you just want to keep it flush to the surface, or for this one here, just a little bit above, and the same thing with these guys, so that the fasteners, if you notice, it's right butted up against the fasteners. You want to make sure that they will still do their job holding the speaker in place. And it works, because I just did, last night I did the front 2 doors, driver and passenger side, and it works perfectly. No issues whatsoever. So just trim those back, and I'll cut them off right now and then come back on. So as you can see, I have trimmed off the heads, or I should say the back sides of the screws, so that the stock clips can be held in place. So we're going to go ahead and take it back over to the vehicle that this mount is ready to go. And again, this speaker will be secure. It's not going to fall out. Everything's going to be fine. All right. So now we have to install the wiring harness interface so that we can plug it directly into the stock harness here. One thing to note, make sure that you get this harness tied up or zip tied into place, because now the harness itself is bigger and than it used to be, and it will push back into the door. And when you roll up and down the window glass will catch this. So you have to make sure that one of the things that I do is take a zip tie and tie it to the window regulator portion right here, this cable. Sorry about the camera. I'm trying to do this at the same time that I'm trying to show you is horrible. Zip tie it right to here so that it doesn't flow back and forth in the doorway. That will hold it secure as you're working. So, and make sure once you interface this that the clips actually clip down into place. That's one of the things that if it doesn't clip, you don't hear a click, it's not secure. So you have to kind of push it in and then force these clips down. There's one. Boy, that one's giving me a hard time. So I'm gonna have to use two hands. So I'm gonna push pause and then get it clipped into place. All right, so that one was difficult, but as you can see, the clips now are down. And so this is seated and it is now ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and push pause, get a zip tie, zip this up, and get the mount back in. Okay, so as you can see here, I pulled back this humidity shield, this water shield that's on the door, the plastic, and I've zip tied it to this wire bundle that's coming up for the power windows. And so it's secure with a zip tie now, and then the wires feed up here to where they're supposed to go. So now when the window opens and closes, it should be fine. It should operate just the way that it's supposed to. So we'll go ahead and get this mount into position. I'm going to go ahead and put the terminals onto the speaker, and then I'll show you how easy it is to clip it in. Okay, so I have it all ready to go. I have the wire terminals plugged in. Now you just line it up with the original holes that were there for the clips on both sides. And then up at the top you have the top clip that goes in, and you just press until you hear a click. Now that is in place, right? It's not going to go anywhere. It fits right in the stock mount, where it's supposed to. The speaker, don't worry about the excursion of the speaker. I checked that as well. It fits perfectly in the mount and doesn't interfere with the door panel when you put it back on. I'm going to go ahead and turn the stereo on real quick to make sure that they're functioning. And it seems like it's working. Very good. And so that should last you quite a while. Not an expensive upgrade, easier to do than most. And then all you got to do now is reverse the process in the installation of the door panel, and you should be good to go. Hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.